We're living in a world now where there's no reason why you have to go get a college degree to learn this stuff. I think those are head starts. But as soon as you enter the world, everything's going to change. You don't really have control over that. Yeah, I don't think you need 10,000 hours of practice to do something anymore. I think that if you have 1,000 hours of practice, you're ready to dive in. Take a job that pays less that's going to give you that experience. Having said all that, they were warning about it back then. This is no surprise, right? The bad part about that is, well, does that make me irrelevant? Hello, welcome to Power Theory. My name is Russ Ouellette. I'm an executive coach. I help create successful organizations and successful leaders. My purpose is to help more people find their own power, their own agency for success. Today, I want to discuss artificial intelligence and my experience and feelings with that, both its benefits, and everybody's got a theory about it. I just want to talk a little bit about, what all this might mean and where I am with my thinking about this. So first, I want to just say that, when I've always been an optimist, I would say I'm pretty progressive about technology, even though I struggle with using it. I get excited about it. I get excited about change. I get excited about growth. I get excited about things that are happening and that could have a benefit on society. And being an organizational thinker, if you will, I'm always trying to find that magic button that's going to happen, that's going to make us all stop fighting and really start, being effective and having good ethics and being a better society, right? Even if it's just in the organization. I think about that a lot. When social media first became a thing, and I guess I remember, people played around with social media a little bit, but it really wasn't mainstream. But when Facebook started getting billions of followers, and I kind of started conceptualizing the value of that. I started conceptualizing, well, what are the benefits to this? And in my mind, and I actually did some future forecasting about, business and society and organizations back when that was going on. And I remember giving speeches about this stuff. And I would give speeches about how, Facebook is allowing us all to connect and allowing us to have better relationships with people. And, we can expand our networks and we can really find value in different places. And our communities of practices are growing. And the effects that was going to have were going to be, a correction to our institutions. I remember using those words. I actually thought we were in an evolution of thinking about our systems. The way newspapers and universities and government, right? I could see all the value that if we use social media properly, how that might be a value. Now, when I go back and look at that now and see what's going on with mental illness and our young people and our, the addiction that we have to the computers, when I think about, the ills and the misinformation and the bad actors out there that are really just, poisoning our society. They've used these tools that I once thought was, great and I was optimistic about in a really bad way. And I think we have to be really cautious about that. Now, do I think, I do use social media. I enjoy it to a certain extent. I manage my time. I'm an adult. I know how much to engage in. I use it for business purposes. I mean, there's a certain value that I can get from that. I use it to find my news. I'm careful not to subscribe to, things that, but I have an awareness of the good and the bad of it, and I'm really careful to make sure I'm not overly influenced by bad actors. Having said that, maybe I am being influenced by bad actors. I don't know. So here we are today, and then Congress doesn't even know, they can't even explain it. Facebook gets in front of Congress and has to explain to them their business model because they have no concept about what it is. The fact that our governing bodies are so ignorant to these things, and these things have taken on a life of our own, and we seem to be, our policy seems to be run by business leaders, billionaires that really their pursuit is capital investment and growth and making as much money as possible, which is capitalism, which is good, right? So, and I don't necessarily fault them, but without regulation, without some control, without a roadmap, we could be in trouble. So along comes Chat GPT, and I have to tell you that when it first came out. I did read a book called Sapien, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari, right? And it was a fantastic book. I loved it, and you get a chance to read it. But he wrote a second book called Homo Deus, and that was about the future of mankind. It was about what we were going to evolve to. And equally as fascinating. But there was one point when I was reading the book on a beach, and I literally burst out, "Oh my God, this is scary." And what was so scary about it was technology. Technology can take us in really bad places. And in the book, he's describing the value of it. Like, we are going to be able to live longer. We're going to be able to cure diseases quicker. We're going to be able to find better relationships. I mean, there's lots of positive upside to that. But the negative side of that is we're actually taking our humanity away a little bit. So anyways, if you get a chance to look at this, it's eye-opening. It really gives a good framework of what could happen in technology in the future. But having said that, this is no mystery. I remember reading Popular Mechanics when I was 13 years old and reading about artificial intelligence and how they were warning about it back then. This is no surprise, right? But here we are. ChatGPT is released. I'm playing around with it. And it's pretty awesome, right? Now, I do find it a little shallow. Like, you got to dig. It's not like you can ask a question, you get this really deep answer. You got to dig a little bit. You got to make it work a little bit. And that's with the 4 version as well. It only gives you so much. It doesn't really give you great citations, right? So it's like it's a little kludgy, but really it's powerful. I've had to go off and give a workshop on emotional intelligence, and I was looking for a new angle on how to do it. And I went into ChatGPT, and I just outlined what I was looking for. I would like a workshop a live facilitated workshop for senior executives on emotional intelligence, where they're going to determine, such, right? And it came back with a framework, and then I went back and I tweaked some things, and I put some ideas on. I focused on something, and then within 20 minutes, I actually said to print out a facilitation guide or show me. It wrote a facilitation guide, step by step, on how to facilitate it. Now, that's both powerful and kind of scary. It's powerful that, wow, in 20 minutes, what would normally take me a whole afternoon to try to figure out, with a lot of collaboration with people, I kind of put it together pretty quickly in 20 minutes. Now, it's not proven, but I put it together. 2 days later, I delivered that. Senior executives in a room, taking them through this facilitated exercise, which lasted about an hour and a half, and it didn't go exactly the way I wanted it to, but I would say it was 80% there. It was pretty powerful. People responded to it. They commented that it was good. Now that's exciting. The bad part about that is, well, does that make me irrelevant? Like, you don't need my brain to go figure out how to facilitate a conversation with a bunch of executives on emotional intelligence. Like, I like to think that you do kind of require me to do that. So there's good and bad in that, right? But it is kind of exciting. Teaching graduate students, people are always worried about plagiarism. I say, go have graduate students actually, give them the assignment that says they have to use ChatGPT to dig deeper and find a unique answer to a problem. That's crazy, that's off the wall. So they can come back and they're still going to learn the same content, they're just going to learn a little different. So I think there's ways that we can use it. But I don't want someone impersonating me, taking, this video and turning it into an algorithm that can reproduce and have anything come out of my mouth. I don't want, I think there's certain...
That is going to be a reality in the near future.
Yeah, and I think creativity is, the human, and I think what scared me about the book Homo Deus was it takes all the humanity out of it, right? It's not like, it almost suggests that, Homo Deus means human God. And it almost takes God out of the equation. It's like, it doesn't matter that we're meat bodies with DNA that can only think so much, because eventually we become irrelevant. And so, having said all that, there's a lot of complicated things in here. Having said all that, I'm not as optimistic as I was about social media, because that turned out to be kind of a disaster in a lot of ways. think there's some benefits to it, but I'm not one for regulation. But what I'm hearing is that the inventors of these things, the minds behind this, both philosophers and the capitalists behind this, all want some control over this. I don't mean their own control. They want regulation around this. I don't know how we're going to figure that out, but I think we have to heed their warning and pay close attention to it. I would argue that, I think it's not good for artists. It's not good for educators. You could argue that it's not good for a lot of people, but is there a way we can harness it that's going to be more powerful? So I remain optimistic. It's a big change that I think could really, if we could solve some of the, again, optimistic about solving the ills of humanity, stop the wars, stop the divisiveness, make our organizations run better, create better products, cure cancer. I think that all of these things could be really wonderful. And I think that we have to make sure we engage it in a proper way so that it actually does reap benefits. All right, so let's have some music questions.
I've been at my job for 3 years. I want to continue developing my skills and advancing in my career. What are the most effective strategies for continuous learning and professional growth in a rapidly changing job market?
Wow, complex question. First of all, there's some sorting out about what job market you want to be in, right? So let's assume that this person's already sorted that out. I think you identify where the leading edge is in that particular category, and you go and pursue it. So, for example, bad example, if you're into a journalist, right? Don't go work for a newspaper, right? Like that wouldn't make any sense. Go find out what is the most cutting edge thing in journalism that you can kind of look at and learn and just kind of go on that journey and do it. How to keep up with it? Again, it's almost like you have to. We're living in a world now where you can't go get a degree in journalism and expect to get out and you're going to be using exactly what you did in school because things are changing too fast. It's almost like you just have to kind of engage. And I think the way I think about learning, the way I think about undergraduate school, high school, undergraduate school, going to college and getting an MBA, I think that those are fantastic things. I think those are head starts. Those are things that are teaching you how to think, how to collaborate, how to argue, how to think for yourself, how to develop your own kind of power, personal power, build some confidence in you, right? But as soon as you enter the world, everything's going to change. I mean, things are going to change and move as fast as possible. You don't really have control over that. I think what you have to do is you have to dig into the hardest projects and not be afraid to do them. Now, that question kind of says, well, how do I prepare for that, right? That goes back to what I've talked about before. People have imposter syndrome and say, well, I'm not prepared to take that job because I know nothing about that. Well, go figure it out. I mean, with all the tools that we have, there's no reason why you have to go get a college degree to learn this stuff. Now, I do agree that you'll learn quicker hands-on. Go get a job, at a small organization that does those things and learn as quickly as possible. So the way you keep up, well, first of all, you can't keep up, so that's a fallacy. But the way you engage is you engage in what you're interested in and go as deep as you can, as fast as you can. As Malcolm Gladwell said, get the 10,000. Yeah, I don't think you need 10,000 hours of practice to do something anymore. I think that if you have 1,000 hours of practice, you're ready to dive in. If you wait for everybody to have 10,000 hours of practice, we're never going to get anything done today. Things are moving way too fast. So your approach is going to be continuous learning. Be curious, dig in, take a job that pays less that's going to give you that experience.
All right, next question. I'm part of a remote team, and it's tough to build strong connections with my colleagues. We rarely meet in person. Any advice on building a sense of camaraderie and trust in a virtual work environment?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I mean, I don't have the magic answer for that, but I do know what works and what advice that we give people regarding that. So if I'm on a remote team and I've got, let's say, 10 colleagues around the country that I'm working with on a regular basis, and we've likely chatted, we've had some Zoom meetings, one-on-ones, and it's about business, and, we'll ask about the kids and things like that once in a while, but it's really nothing meaningful, right? What I would do, and what my team does, and we practice this, is we have one-on-ones with people that have nothing to do with work. We actually used to have a meeting. We called it I forget what we called it. We called it like a just a catch-up meeting, and we would, 7 people would come on Zoom, and, one of us would have this intellectual question for the day. That's got nothing to do with work, right? Christy, what are you learning? You get this new program that you're taking. What are you learning? Oh, it's fascinating. And I read this book, and this book is about that. And I read that book too. And we find ourselves in this really deep dialogue about something that's got nothing to do with work. And what we're doing is we're creating these intellectual connections to each other. That's not just based on, not based on shallowness, right? I'm not one for small talk. Let me tell you about my son. He just got married. That some of the exciting stuff I'll share. The other thing we do is we have one-on-one. So I will have one-on-one meetings, and we don't do it. You don't have to do it a lot. And I'm not an advocate for doing a one-on-one meeting every week. But I'll have in my schedule one-on-one meetings, and in those meetings, it's not a performance review. It's just like, what's going on with you? What is it you want to learn? What's new? What are you excited about? Right? And we share that with each other, And then because we're coaches, we might also ask a powerful question to get people kind of, deeper into stuff. Now, I know you might be sitting there thinking, well, that's awkward. I'm going to call my friend that I don't know in California, who's this, big masculine man. I'm going to call him and ask him, you'd be surprised. Just do it. Right? And these don't have to be 2-hour meetings. It could be a half-hour connect. What Silicon Valley Bank, before they ran into trouble, used to do is they would give every executive or every person in the bank a budget to go have lunch with a group of people that they don't know, and they would just force them to go to lunch once in a while. This could be you could do the same thing kind of online. Having said all that, you're not going to have the same effect online. It's just not going to have. You're not going to have the same effect. There's certain endorphins that trigger when you get with live people. What you really should be doing is you should be having at least live offsites a couple of times a year, where if you can only do it a couple times a year, make it an overnight, 2 or 3 day. People get together, they go to dinner. You do some work, but you really do a lot of team building and some other stuff, and really kind of get to know each other. I'm not talking about ice cream socials and things like that. I mean, more relevant things to the business, but at a lighter pace that makes the culture better. During the COVID thing, I was working with a high-tech company that was selling some software. I think they were located in New York, but they were kind of all over the place. They had people, the whole team was all over the place. And we did executive team coaching sessions with them online, and it was all on Zoom, and we got to know each other, and we did some coaching, and it was a lot of fun, and people really, they worked on their short-term strategy for the next quarter, and we did some stuff together. And then we were having an offsite where they were all flying into one location, and I have to tell you, when I walked in the room and saw these people physically that I've never met before, it was like everybody had a smile on their face. Everybody was so happy to be with this other human being. I remember saying things totally inappropriate, like, "Oh my God, Bill, you're so handsome and tall. I didn't know you were so tall." Inappropriate. I wouldn't suggest saying that. But I mean, it's like I'm like overwhelmed with this, this feeling of meeting these people, and they were just as excited to meet me. And then of course that 2 days was fantastic, and everybody. And then when we go back to be online, we're actually closer, and the relationship's better. I would say that if you're starting out in a team, if you have a team and you have a team of 5 or 7 people and they're all over the place, what you probably should do is start out by having a live meeting. You start out by having a live event. If you go to an online college or university and they're learning something and you're learning online, it's not unusual for them to bring people together in the beginning so they get to spend some time together and know each other before they start just kind of Zooming with each other. So I guess it's a cop-out answer saying you need to get together with people, you need to spend time with them, but after you kind of at least have that initial meet and greet, you need to make sure you nurture those relationships. Not a lot, not too much, but you need to spend time with people, at least kind of, working on ideas that are not necessarily sensitive to each other's career. If this is interesting to you, you want to chat about it, you have comments about it, you want to just share some ideas with me, you can email me at russ@sojournpartners.com. Also, if you're interested in the newsletter that we produce, give me a shout. We'll get you on the newsletter list. Follow along as we continue this journey to create personal power. Thanks.